Hello lovely viewers and welcome to another video on Host No More, helping you weed out your psychic parasites. On many occasions we fall into the narcissist traps and games and find it impossible to break the trance. The narcissist achieves this by adopting systematic strategies in mind control. So in today's video I will be dissecting mind control tactics so that we can become aware of them as they occur and break the spell that the narcissist has put on us. I will first look at how oppression is used to force the victim into total submission and compliance. Here I will go through the three types of pressure that the narcissist inflicts on their prey to gain power and control over their minds. Then I will be covering some covert brainwashing techniques used by the narcissist to fool their targets into having complete faith in them and obey their every command. If this is your first time here and you want to know more about narcissism, coping with narcissistic abuse, and staying free from unhealthy, toxic people, start now by clicking on the subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss anything. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Also comment below to share any of your views or experiences in dealing with mind control and manipulation, or if you have any questions. So now let's start with today's session. In obtaining absolute domination over their target, the totalitarian practices three types of oppression. Firstly, this intimidation can come in the form of moral pressure, where the abuser uses your decency and moral grounds against you. They will offer unsolicited help or do you a favor only to follow up with a heavy abuse or demand. They can also solve a problem they have created for you to gain your trust and gratitude, which they will carefully use to their own advantage. Here, the narcissist is conditioning you to believe that their extortions or bad behaviors are justified because they have done you a solid or scratched your back. They demand your absolute loyalty or support, even when their acts are questionable or despicable. The second kind of oppression, which is the most common weapon of the narcissist, is the hierarchical pressure. The totalitarian loves to assume false authority or abuse their position of power to take advantage of others. They use their authority to make you conform to unreasonable demands or outlandish ideologies. In her post titled How Totalism Works at Eon.co, Alexandra Stein, a social psychologist specializing in ideological extremism, writes, I entered the Masters of Liberal Arts program at the age of 45. There I learned about Stanley Milgram's obedience experiments of the 1960s, which showed that 2/3 of ordinary people were willing to administer severe electric shocks to complete strangers when ordered to do so by the experimenter. I also learned about the conformity experiment of the 1950s by the social psychologist Solomon Asch, who demonstrated that when faced with obviously incorrect information, 75% of participants publicly denied clear evidence before their own eyes rather than buck the majority opinion. However, when just one other person disagreed with the majority and broke the unanimous block, the conformity effect almost entirely disappeared. All of this became key to my own study of the social psychology of extremist political organizations. These scholars understood the power of extreme social influence to corral and corrupt even the most ordinary of individuals. Totalism works because ordinary people, at least those without prior knowledge of the controlling methods of totalism, are subject to the coercive manipulations that leaders employ. If the situation is strong and isolating enough, without any clear escape route, then the average person can cave into the traumatizing pressures of brainwashing. As you might already know, a narcissist is an expert at recruiting people into their cult and creating hierarchies in their inner circle. This is how narcissists control separate groups of flying monkeys to attack you at different times and different places, leaving you no time for recovery or reflection of the abuse, so that you break down under attrition, all while remaining anonymous and unreachable through the hierarchical shield. Looking back at the post by Alexandra, she says, not all totalist leaders want to get rich, gain sexual favors, or grab political power. but all want utter control over others. Money, sex, free labor, or loyal combatants are all fringe benefits, and certainly most leaders take advantage of these, some in a big way, but absolute control over their relationships is the key. These leaders rule over isolated, steeply hierarchical and close structures, some with front groups serving as transmission belts to the outside world. This isolating structure is characteristic of a totalist group. As the organization grows, it develops concentric, onion-like layers, with the leader at the center providing the driving movement. There might be several layers from the leader to the lieutenant to the elite inner circle to other varying levels of membership down to the mere fellow travelers or sympathizers. Aaron describes the innermost part of the structure in powerful terms. In the center of the movement, as the motor that swings it into motion, sits the leader. He is separated from the elite formation by an inner circle of the initiated, who spread around him an aura of impenetrable mystery. This mystery adds to the feeling that the leader is everywhere and sees everything. This can also explain why it's so difficult to break free from narcissistic abuse without facing hoovering, constant bullying, and stalking left, right, and center. Why you feel like you can never run away from it and that there is simply no escape. Why it seems impossible to find the leader, the source of the incessant abuse. I want to cut back now to the article to show this effect. Dennis, a former member of the New York-based leftist political cult called the Newman Tendency, was brought into the group through therapy. Although she had previously been apolitical, she soon ended up working long unpaid shifts, save for a small stipend, on group projects, living in a group house and in a relationship with another follower. Even when she was on the road for one of the Tendency's political campaigns, she had to phone in from telephone booths to get therapy, which she paid for. I was so afraid, she told me. You know that story about the elephant? And he's hooked up with a chain on a pole, and he's trying to break free? Eventually you can hook the elephant up with a loose rope, because in that animal's mind it believes that it can't break free. And that's what it was like for me, said Dennis. Another way an oppression can manifest is through aggressive pressure. For this case, compliance to the oppressor comes from fear of what they are capable of, fear of their wrath, or fear of making the situation worse. Victims often submit as a defense mechanism, compromising their power for their safety. Preston Nee from Psychology Today wrote about the 15 control tactics of difficult people. I want to cite a few of these methods that I deem to be aggressive. Number 1 is making you wait. Someone who deliberately makes you wait before you get to see him or her is using a classic form of power play. The message here is that his time is more important than yours, and by inference, he is more important than you. Number 2, raising their voice and displaying negative emotions. Some aggressors raise their voice during discussions as a form of intimidation. The assumption may be that if they project their voice loud enough or display negative emotions, you'll submit to their coercion and give them what they want. The aggressive voice is frequently combined with strong body language, such as standing or excited gestures, to increase the impact. Number 3, losing patience and or threatening to walk out. Similar to raising one's voice, losing patience and threatening to walk out are classic power play tactics to pressure a recipient to conform and give in. The more attached, especially emotionally, the recipient is to the situation, the more likely this type of coercion can succeed. Number 4, negative humor designed to poke at your weaknesses and disempower you.